G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright, people. Interesting fight this was. I gotta say, I picked Eubank Jr. to win this fight. Thought he'd win a UD. I wasn't expecting the start to this fight. I don't think many of us were, that we got, you know. A lot of people have been saying, and I noticed that from some of the training footage I've seen of Liam Williams, that a lot of us were expecting him to come out as a boxer in this fight. So come out using the jab, trying to jab with Chris Eubank Jr. because lately under Roy Jones, Eubank, it was certainly his last two performances, looked between like he was caught between two styles. So I kind of thought, okay, it could be interesting. And in the first round, you know, prior to what happened, which I'll get onto now in a sec, Liam Williams was having success in that first round. He was doing quite well. He actually was the guy who got his jab off first, was having some good success with the jab to the body and the jab to the head. And I was looking at that first round and I was thinking to myself, this could be interesting now. The crowd were just so into it. They were so hyped for Liam Williams. I was thinking, this could be interesting. And then Liam Williams went down. And it kind of surprised me because, you know, it looked, and it turns out it looked like it was from a jab that Eubank Jr. put him down with. Now, Eubank Jr., he's not known for having a particularly devastating jab. In fact, the jab was something that we all complained was missing from Eubank Jr. over the course of his career prior to him joining with Roy Jones. And even then, Eubank Jr., he is a more guy who will get you out of there with volume, as opposed to someone who will drop you at one shot. It's not normally Eubank Jr.'s way. I'm not saying he's feather-fisted, but I wouldn't say he's got elite level power, if that makes sense. You know, I'm sure he's definitely strikes me as being someone who has enough power to hurt you, but in terms of elite, you know, to drop you, certainly with a jab, I thought was strange. And what also I found strange was the reaction from Liam Williams, because it didn't look, that first knockdown, certainly a devastating shot, you know, to get hit with, but he was kind of blinking, you know, a lot like that. And, you know, he was then hit by, I think it was a right hand from Eubank, and that did buzz him as well towards the end of the first round. So it went from being a round that Eubank Jr. was, in my opinion, losing, to a round that he won clearly. And, you know, okay, I thought, okay, this could be interesting. And in the second round, it was an even bigger knockdown. It was a left hook, which put down Liam Williams. And that one looked, at the time, I thought that one was terminal. I didn't think he was going to survive that round, and I kind of thought to myself, one thing I didn't see was an early stoppage for either man, but I kind of thought at that stage that's what it might happen. Again, Williams got through the round. Eubank Jr.'s hooks and his uppercuts are normally where the power is, and from a stance point of view, Eubank Jr. early on in the fight, even to the way he was holding his hands, it was so reminiscent of Roy Jones Jr. back when he was in his heyday. Now, this is not me saying Eubank Jr. is as good, no, but even to the way he was doing it, the way he would lead with the hooks at times, throwing them just like Roy would, with the hands kind of out like that, just like Roy would have them, you know, the stance, everything. And, you know, Eubank Jr. really looked, early on, he looked a hell of a lot better than he did in his last two. I think now he's finally got a grasp on just the boxing end of it, you know, the style Roy Jones is teaching him, where I think before he was kind of trying to, he knew what Roy Jones wanted him to do, but he had in his mind over the course of his career, this is how I normally do it. And I think it was kind of, he was struggling to find, you know, a mix between the two, or a compromise between the two. I think now he gets it, because he looked very good. The speed was there, the athleticism was still there for Eubank Jr. So the way he was boxing early on, I was very impressed with. You know, I was very, very impressed. He wasn't wasting shots. He was doing a little bit of showboating, and he was doing a lot more showboating at the end, which I'll talk about now in a sec. But early on, I was very impressed with Eubank Jr. We go into the fourth round, and again, now I actually thought that this was the end after this knockdown, because we go into the fourth round, and again Eubank Jr. puts Liam Williams down, again this time with a jab. And I was thinking, is there something wrong with Liam Williams in terms of his punch resistance? Did something happen in training? Did he maybe get his weight wrong? Because remember, this fight's been rescheduled a few times. Did he maybe have issues with weight or something like that? Because Liam Williams has never shown a bad chin or anything like that. Yeah, he's been hurt and dropped by people like just Andre, who can punch very well as well. But the fact that he was going down from shots like jabs and getting hurt, I was thinking, is there something okay with Liam Williams in terms of did he pick something up in training? Is he going in with maybe a head injury that's maybe not been properly scanned or something like that? Because I was just curious, because I was just surprised that he was getting dropped so easy. But when he went down the third time, I thought to myself, if he gets up, I'd be surprised if he survives the round, because he had that kind of look of someone who had resigned himself to defeat at that stage. But interestingly enough, after that knockdown, there was one more knockdown in the 11th round. In my opinion, it wasn't a knockdown. It was more Liam Williams being off balance and Eubank's kind of forearm shoving him to the ground. That's kind of how it was. It shouldn't have been called a knockdown. Nevertheless, it wouldn't have made any difference on the scorecards if Liam Williams had won that round and the last round, because Eubank, the scorecards I think were two 8-4s and a 9-7. So Eubank was well clear anyway. But from the 5th round onto the 10th round, that was when Liam Williams came back into it. Now, he didn't win the rounds. Put it like this, right? He was having more success in them rounds, but I wouldn't turn around and say he won every single round clearly. He was definitely the busier of the two, but he wasn't taking a foothold on them rounds, if that makes sense. But definitely for sure, he was having a lot more success. Eubank seemed to slow down quite dramatically. He did, it seemed even that his foot speed slowed down a bit after, say, kind of the midway point of this fight. So I'm wondering if that maybe is an issue, and if other fighters are going to look at that and think, okay, a bit like, again, just not the same, but an analogy, a bit like Amir Khan. When he's fresh, well, certainly when he was in his prime, when he was fresh, the speed, he'd be dropping people, he'd be accurate. But after a while, the speed would diminish. You get acclimatized to the speed, you get to know where the shots are coming from, and then, you might still lose, but it's not, you're having more success after that when you slow down. You've got acclimatized to it than you did at the start, when it was kind of just like a shock to the system. I wonder if something like that happened where Eubank Jr., it was a combination of him slowing down, but Liam Williams maybe finally acclimatizing to what I have in front of me, and it was a case of, okay, I know he's going to do this, I know it's going to come from here, so I'm not going to be as surprised when it happens, whereas in those few rounds, it shocked me. I wonder if something like that happened. Now, the mid-rounds, as I said, they were close, they were messy. Liam Williams was making it quite messy, got a very bad swelling under his eye as well. But the referee was having words a few times with both fighters. It was getting a bit messy in there now at times with the two, especially when they get up and get the ropes. It would just seem, there was times where Liam Williams' feet were leaving the ground. He was clinging on to Eubank. It was crazy. But in the 11th round, at that stage, on Sky's card, Liam Williams was getting a foothold back into it. They were talking about him even managing to salvage draw. Obviously, he was dropped, he was officially dropped in the 11th. It shouldn't have been called a knockdown. And that was all she wrote in terms of him being able to get the decision. My thoughts on this fight were, it was fun. It was fun to watch. I didn't normally when you have a fighter who's dropped 3 times in the first 4 rounds, you don't expect him to win the fight, and again, that was what happened. But I definitely enjoyed it. I liked what I saw from Eubank Jr. early on. I wonder, is that going to be an issue moving forward if he does slow down as he did? It wasn't like he devastatingly slowed down or anything like that in the midway. No, it wasn't anything like that. But you could see he definitely didn't have the spring in his step to the same extent he did early on. And I think, as I said, Liam Williams was getting used to what was coming back at him. But a very interesting fight. I'm going to be interested to see Eubank Jr. moving forward and who they match him with next. There's been talk of, potentially him fighting for a world title in the summer. I think Demetrius Andre is moving up, so that title will be, what's the guy's name, Yalibek? Or no, it's not, no. Yalibek's the heavyweight. I forget the guy's name, but he'll probably be fighting for the vacant title. I don't know if Eubank's really ranked too high. WBO. WBA, you have Erislandy Lara, and you have Murata, who's going to face Triple G, who's got the IBF, and of course Charlo, who may be moving up to face Canelo, has WBC. So it's an interesting little landscape at middleweight, but it could chop and change. Eubank could find himself fighting for a vacant title, who knows. But it'd be interesting to see who he goes in there with next. I'd be interested now to see who he's going in there with next. I can't see him fighting Triple G. I think that if the money is there, Triple G would take a Canelo fight. Or the Zone or Canelo would want that, because remember, that was the plan. Eddie Hearn stated in an IFL interview that they want Bivol first and then Triple G trilogy. That Triple G fight would make a lot of money, be a trilogy fight. I just take it for what it is at this stage, and I'm sure Triple G would take it as well. So we'll wait and see. Watch the space with Chris Eubank Jr. As for Liam Williams, oh boy. Yeah, we'll need to see what he does from here. Will he stay with Adam Boot? Will he go back to Dominic Ingle? Will he continue his career? We'll have to wait and see. Watch space with Liam Williams. For now, I will leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could, lads and lassies, smash the like button, hit like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll do a stream tomorrow. I'm just not feeling the best today. Been sick all day today. I'm just sick with stomach. And yeah, we're back in business tomorrow. So I'll talk to you then. Have a good one, peeps. Peace.